See you. It's never the same. It's always different. Just like when you're in a relationship with someone, it's always, every day is a new day. Like I wake up next to Sharice, and every day is a new day. You don't know what you're going to get. She doesn't know what she's going to get, whether I'm in a crazy mood or a funny mood or a random mood. It's like, who are you today? And every day you experience something new. And that's what it is when we go before God, where you have some people here that are crying because God is just speaking to them. And you have other people excited. You have other people passionate. You have other people who are watching. Every person's at a different place in their walk with God. And what I want to encourage you today on is to really reflect, where are you at? Because sometimes as we look at where we're at, sometimes we look and we say, hey, I'm where I need to be. Other times we go and we are not where we need to be. We are far off. We have drifted. We have stopped pursuing our King and Creator. So evaluate, where are you at? Whose business have you been about this week? Jeremy, I don't know if they're ready for this. This isn't even in my notes. This is just me going for it. I was just feeling it. What have you been, the Jews, what have you been doing this week? Who have you been living for this week? Have you been living a life worthy of the gospel of Christ? Pursuing Him, pursuing that relationship? Or have you been living a life worthy of your boyfriend, your girlfriend? I don't. We only have so many days on this earth. Who are you going to live for? Now, the reason I want to stress this so hard right now is because when it comes to living your dream, when it comes to pursuing your purpose and your calling, there are so many of you who I hear who are dealing with depression, who are dealing with anxieties, who are dealing with these crazy, crazy things that I never had to go through when I was in high school. It is insane what's going on out there. You guys know it. You live in it. You're like, how many of you guys, yes, the world is insane right now. Yep, okay, everyone agrees. Okay, the world is insane. Between social media, bullying. Like, when 11-year-olds are legitimately coming to me saying, Pastor Scott, I have depression. That's crazy. Some of you guys are like, what? Yes, that's happening. And that's not to say that, like these are real feelings. Like, that's real. The reason why it's real is because society is going crazy. But here's what I want to say to that. I'm going to help pull you guys out of that and give you some truth. But at its bottom line, what are you going to stand for? Who are you going to live for? Because as long as you're living for yourself, doing the things that you want to do the same old ways, guess what you're going to find yourself in? Depression, anxieties, fear, struggles. The lifestyle outside of Christ will always lead to that. Always. I just heard this last week. A friend of mine who I went to high school, this youth group with, he was on fire. He was at their winter camps jumping up and down. He graduated off, went to the military, and while in the military, he started using drugs. And life was good. Life was great. I'm happy. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying life. And now he's on his deathbed because he's incredibly sick from drug overdoses and uses and infections. That life always leads to death. And the truth of the matter is, who you live for today will determine what your life is going to look like tomorrow. See, the message today is on, actually we have notes in the back. Can we start passing out those notes? We can put the title slide up. His story of faithfulness. Now, we're in a series called In the Beginning. We're going through these major characters of the Bible. We went through Adam and Eve and the fall and the sin that entered in, but God's grace overcomes. And last week we talked about Abraham and hearing from God and our calling to go out into the world and make disciples of all nations. And this week we're talking about his story of faithfulness. And the reason why I title it this is because when it comes to your dreams, what you want to be when you grow up, who you're going to be, it has very little to do with you and everything to do with him. His story of faithfulness. Because when it comes to, man, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a policeman, I want to be this, I want to be that, who do you think put those dreams inside of your heart? Who do you think placed those things deep within you? Is it by coincidence that you have the gifts that you have? Is it by coincidence that you have the skills that you have? How many of you guys say you're good at something in life? Just something. Just one. Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. The rest of you will help get you there. You're good at something. Do you think you're good at that just by chance? Isaiah, you play football. Quarterback, right? How's your season going? Good. It's all right. All right, but you're an athlete. Do you think it's by chance that you're an athlete? Who's a dancer in here? Dancer. Katie, you're a dancer. Do you think it's by chance that you have the gift of grace through your limbs? No. I do not have the gift of grace through my limbs. I have a little bit, but that's all I got. That's all I got. Bella, you play soccer. Do you think it's by coincidence that you're an amazing soccer player? No, I don't think so. We all have gifts that God has placed within us. And what I want to teach you in the next few minutes is how to activate those gifts in a healthy way. Because if you activate them in a healthy way, you will find yourself living a life with Christ. And no matter what craziness happens in the world, you'll be okay. If you don't activate them for Christ and you activate them for yourself or for worldly gains, you will fall into depression, anxieties, fear, and struggles. That's just how it works. Look at your friends. Look at the chaos. And so I say this with like a tenacity because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing you guys walk into my office. Jeremy's tired of seeing you guys come to the office broken. And it's not that there's like an issue with you, but we're tired of society ruining people. I want to stop that. Do you want to stop that? Do you want to stop that for your friends? Let's begin. On your way to living your dream, you see, Jeremy, that was all just, it was here. On your way to living your dream, there will be roadblocks. Say that with me, roadblocks. Say it again, roadblocks. How many of you guys have ever experienced a roadblock on the way to your dream? I was playing rugby, and I was going against a guy, and I was running. I was like, man, I'm going to plant here. I'm going to pass the ball, take this guy out, and my partner's going to go score, and we're going to win the game. It was a perfect plan. So I'm running, planted the ball, went to pass, my knee. Torn ACL, donezo. I went to get up, and I was like, what in the world is wrong with it? So I wrapped it up, tried to get back in the game, and coach was like, Scott, sit down. But coach, whatever it takes. And he's like, no, okay. You're on your way to living your dream. I was going to be a professional rugby athlete. And you hit a roadblock, and something comes up. You guys have hit roadblocks, whether it's literally injuries. Maybe your parents got divorced, and your family is now broken. Maybe someone got sick. Maybe you are sick. Maybe you had a bad breakup that's just tearing your heart apart. On our way to our dreams, we have roadblocks. How do we respond to those? There was a guy in the Bible named Joseph. How many of you guys have ever heard of Joseph? Most of us. Okay, that's pretty good. Joseph. He was the son, well, you see there's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. Joseph was one of those sons. And he was the favorite son. How many of you guys are the favorite child at home? I'm the favorite child. At least I like to think I am. I know some of your guys' siblings. That's funny. Sierra, get your hand up. I'm just kidding. Okay, so he was the favorite son, and his father was not ashamed about this. His father even gave him the latest Yeezys. It was a coat. But think of that. Whatever your favorite shoe is, I'm going to use Yeezys, but whatever your favorite thing is, your dad comes to you and then says, here for your sibling instead. You're like, what? So he was the favorite. He knew he was the favorite, but he had some skills. Here's Genesis 37:4. It says, but when Joseph's brothers saw that their father loved him more than all of his other brothers, they hated him, and they could not speak peacefully to him. How many guys, there's that one person in class that the teacher loves, and that is not you? It is not you. How many guys, you are the person that the teacher loves? Yes. Okay, for the rest of you, it's strategy. It's all about strategy. We'll teach you how. But anyways, sometimes you're just like, yeah. You just want to rubber band them gun, and you just hit them, right? You just don't like it. So that's what they were feeling, this anger, this anxiety, because he loved them more than me. And so that's the beginning of our story. Joseph, though, he had some gifts. Every one of you guys have gifts. Here was his gift. He had the ability to see and interpret dreams. That's a pretty cool gift. We see in Genesis 37:5. It says, now Joseph had a dream. And the first dream was that there were 11 sheaths of grain, and they all bowed down to his sheath of grain. And then he had another dream that there were all these stars, and the sun, the moon, and the stars bowed down to his star. And he told this to his family, like, hey, and it means that you guys are all going to bow down to me one day. Joseph might have had a pride issue, but he had these dreams, and so because of these dreams, they hated him even more. How many of you guys, when you have a sibling, and your sibling is like the golden sibling, nothing, they never get in trouble for anything? How many of you guys are the ones who are always getting in trouble for everything? You weren't even on like that side of the continent. You were like on the other side on a missions trip. Something broke at the house. They call you up. Why did you break this? You're like, but Mom, no, it's your fault. How many of you guys, that's you? It's you, okay. That was my brother. So Joseph had a dream. He had gifts. I'm going to ask, what unique gifts has God given you? What unique gifts has God given you? When it comes to living your dream, the first thing I want you to focus on is to develop your gifts. Because God has given you certain gifts, certain talents. And those aren't by coincidence. Are you an athlete? You're an athlete. You look like you're an athlete. God has given you a gift. Not everyone has that gift. But not everyone has to have the gift of an athlete to be valuable. Gifts of art, gifts of creativity, gifts of dreams. Here's what I've learned in life. There are certain things that you are just bad at. You're just not good. How many of you guys know something that I am bad at something? Name some of those out. What are you bad at? Speaking. What else? School, math, dancing. Yeah, what are you bad at? Math? Okay. Marcus, looks like we need to have like a math ministry here to help some kids out. We got to get that up. Okay, there's certain things that you're bad at. And then there are certain things that like you're good at. You're not great, but you're good. You're good. You know, how many of you guys have things that you're good at? Yeah. What are some things that you're good at? Soccer, okay. Swimming, what was that? Swimming, what was that? Eating food. Yeah. Some people are fantastic at eating food. All right, so there's certain things that you're good at. So things you're bad, things you're good. And then there are certain things that you're great at. It's like, I'm fantastic. Don't be humble. What are some things that you're great at? Basketball, thank you. Dancing. What was that? Drawing, running, being creative. Okay, certain things you're great at. Now I have one more category. Pastor Scott, what's better than great? There are certain things that make you uniquely you. That it makes you come alive when you do these things. It brings life out of you. When people look at things you're great at and things that are uniquely you, they can't really tell the difference, but you can. Let me give you an example. For me, I am great at video production. I know how to make movies, I know how to edit videos, and I'm pretty good at it. But I love so much better being a pastor. You see, someone might look at me and say, oh, you're really great at making videos and you're great at being a pastor, but at the end of the day, making videos drains me. Being a pastor gives me life. I could be a pastor for like 100 hours straight and be excited. After like 20 hours of doing video, I'm like, okay, I'm getting bored. I need to do something else. Does that make sense, that difference between great and stuff that's uniquely you? So, okay, you like soccer. When you play soccer, does it a drain or does it make you come alive? Come alive, exactly. So that's something that's like uniquely you. Versus you might be like, man, Pastor Scott, I am great at doing the dishes. I'm amazing. I'm the best dishwasher. But I'd venture to say, doing the dishes does not make you come alive. Playing soccer makes you come alive. That makes sense, that difference? So when it comes to life, when it comes to pursuing and living your dreams, focus your energies on things that are uniquely you. Now, undoubtedly, you're going to have to learn how to do things you're bad at. Because some of you guys are bad at doing the dishes. And guess what? You're going to need to learn how to do the dishes. Because when you get married and your spouse says, do the dishes, if you say, no, you do the dishes, guess who's sleeping outside tonight? You are. So you need to get good at some of the bad things. But I want you to focus on what are you good at, but more specifically, what makes you uniquely you? Focus on your gifts. We're going to continue on because Joseph, he focused on his gifts and he developed these gifts of dreams. But then something happened. There's always a but. Something happened. Genesis 37:20. His brothers begin to plot against him because they didn't like him because he was so good. And they said, "Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. And then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what has become of his dreams." And when they took him and threw him into the pit was empty, so there was no water in it. How many of you guys have ever hated your sibling enough? You're like, he has someone to kill him. That's pretty intense, man. It's intense. We're going to be in the back. If you need help, we're all here to help you, and then we're going to call the police on you, okay? That's crazy. Man, I've never thought, I'm going to kill my brother, because that's just crazy to me. But maybe you guys have some crazy siblings. I don't know. But they went and they were like, "Man, we want to kill Joseph. He's so evil." And then the oldest brother, I'm thankful for the oldest brother, he's like, "Hey, guys, maybe killing him is a bit too strong. Maybe we back it off a bit and just throw him in this well and see what happens." Okay, Simeon, oldest brother, he has a little bit of reason. How many of you guys are the older sibling? How many of you guys feel like you have a little bit of reason in your life? Okay, so do you, Adena, you can't kill Chudy, man. Don't kill Chudy. Okay, all right. So they took him, they threw him into the pit. The pit was empty, and there was no water in it. Sometimes on the way to living your dream, you're working on stuff that you're great at. You're playing football, then all of a sudden, something happens. Torn this, broken that, failed out of that, can't go because of grades. Something happens that stops your dreams, and you find yourself in a pit, roughed up, with nowhere to go. You see, that's what oftentimes happens in life. We're on our way to something, and then we get blindsided. And now we're down for the count. How are you going to respond when you get blindsided? How are you going to respond when bad things happen? Because I guarantee you, bad things will happen. But Pastor Scott, I'm a Christian now. Aren't only good things supposed to happen to me? No, that is nowhere in the Bible. When you become a Christian, guaranteed bad things will happen. But Pastor Scott, that's why I became a Christian. Wrong reason. You can leave. That's the truth. Bad things will always happen. Why? Because we live in a broken world. And there are people in the world doing bad things. And they will do bad things to you, and it will hurt, and it will suck, and it will want to cause you to go into depression, fear, anxiety, stress. That's just the reality of the world. But you get to choose how you respond, and that's the fantastic thing. Because you can sit in the pit and wallow, and woe is me, I'm broken. Or you can respond to bad news in great ways. There was a man, he was an artist, pretty good artist, and he liked to draw mice. He liked to draw mice. Why? I don't know. I've never tried to draw a mouse, but he liked to draw mice. And the newspaper editor that he was working for at the time said, "You are terrible at drawing. Not only that, as a cartoonist, you will never, ever make it in life." And so they fired him from his job. And I have a quote, because they said he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. Have you ever heard of Walt Disney? Walt Disney. I can't imagine looking at him being like, "You are worthless. You have no good ideas. You have no imagination. Your mice are ugly. Get out of here." I can't imagine what that conversation was like. And then I really want to see the conversation where he came back and he said, "Here is my non-imaginative bad idea called Disneyland and Disney World, and now I'm a billionaire because I have one of the largest companies on the face of the planet. Oh, and I own Marvel. I don't know, whatever." You see, on your way to your dreams, he was on his way to his dreams, and someone came and squashed it, squished it, and bullied him and said, "You're worthless, you can't do anything." How many of you have ever had someone or a teacher or someone in your life say, "You will not amount to"? Here's the deal. That's a lie. You can do whatever your imagination can bring out. The power is in the God within you, though. See, oftentimes we try to do some of these things on our own accord. It may or may not work. You may or may not get lucky. You may or may not hit the lottery. But when you're following after God, when you're pursuing God, the Bible says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths." As long as you're focused on him, he will get you where you need to go. Because guess what? The things that you're good at, you didn't put there. God did. And so if God wants you to be an athlete, guess who's going to become an athlete? You are. But guess who's not going to become an athlete if you tell God, no, I could never do that, and so I'm going to sit on the sideline instead of getting the game. And all too often, we're sitting on the sidelines instead of investing in God in our week-to-week life. Let me say that again. All too often, we are sitting on the sidelines instead of investing in God week to week. Where did you spend your time this last week? How many times did you go before God to give him control of your life? How many times did you ask God, how should I respond in this situation? How many times did you bring God into your life? Or did you just come on Sunday and say, hey, thanks, I'll see you next week? If you want to live your dream, if you want to live God's dream for your life, it'll take sacrifice. You can respond to bad news in great ways. And so Joseph responded to bad news in great ways. Because guess what happened? He was in the pit, and then to make things worse, someone came and found him and said, he's like, someone saved me. Thank you for pulling me out of the pit. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to sell you into slavery now, and you're going to have a great time for the rest of your life as a slave. You guys ever felt like you've just been kicked while you were down? Like you're already beaten up, bruised, and someone comes in. So not only was he in a pit, his brothers tried to kill him. Now he's sold off into slavery. If that's the life of a Christian, Pastor Scott, I don't want it. Nah, but the story's not over. So he's sold into slavery. But that wasn't the end, because he said, I'm going to respond to bad news in great ways. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to bloom where I am planted. Bloom where I'm planted. What does that mean? It means no matter what situation you're in life, you're going to make the most of it. You're going to be the best. Even if it's like, man, your job is a pooper scooper. I'm going to be the best freaking pooper scooper that this world has ever freaking seen. Bloom where you're planted. He was a slave, the worst, the low. And here's what happened as he bloomed where he was planted. Genesis 39, verse 7. It says, after a time, we're not here yet. As he was a slave, the master of the house, Potiphar, started to see, you know what, this guy's pretty legit. So he started putting him in control of everything. You can run this, you can run this, you can run this. And lo and behold, after a little bit of time, Joseph was running, this guy was like a general in like Pharaoh's army. He was running this guy's entire estate, running it. He was the manager. From a slave to a manager. Why? Because he bloomed where he was planted. Some of you guys are in some crazy home situations. You're in some crazy school situations. You're in some crazy life situations. I know that. But I also know that you have a choice in how you're going to respond to those. It may not be fair that you are at where you got there. Your parents may be duds. Your life may be in shambles before this point. But you get to choose this day who you're going to live for. And that's the beauty. You're not stuck from the past. You don't have to have fear of what's happened in the past, because you can choose today how you're going to move forward to tomorrow. And Joseph said, even though my brothers freaking tried to kill me, I was in a pit, and then I was sold by some shady characters, I'm going to make the most of this opportunity. So he became the best at what he did. He was a pooper scooper, so he pooped that. He was awesome at it. And he said, great, now I'm going to make you a bigger pooper scooper, and you can have all the animals to scoop poop for. And he was like, great, he was amazing. And then he became the ruler of the house. And everything was going great. Everything was fantastic. But then guess what happened? More shady business. The main guy's wife, his wife said, bad business. That's what you guys say. I'm saying, bad business. Thank you. His wife, she came after him. This is 39:7. After a time, his master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph and said, lie with me. Joseph, lie with me. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? But he refused, and he said to his master's wife, behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my charge. There is no one greater in the house than I am, nor has he kept anything back from me except for you, because you are his wife. I can have anything I want except for you, which makes sense because you're his wife. I don't want to ruin that. You're crazy. I'm not going to lie with you. How could I do such a great wickedness against God? Why would I do that? What are you, crazy woman? And guess what she says? Lie with me. And she keeps trying to get him. And then one day he's walking in, and she gets like desperate. How many of you guys know some Desperate Debbies? It's like Desperate Housewives, but like intense. And she comes up to him, and she's like, lie with me. And she's like going crazy. And he is like, lady, I wouldn't lie with you even if I wanted to because you're just crazy. And so what he does is she like grabs his cloak and he just runs. He just runs, butt naked, runs out the door. She has all of his clothes and he is out of there, just running down the street. Get out of my life. I don't want you. That's I have to give my boy props because, man, that's intense. And so here's what she does. With his clothes in her hands, she goes up to her husband and says, Joseph, that sleazeball, he came to me and he dropped his clothes in front of me and he wants me to sleep with him. I told him no, of course, and I screamed and he ran out. So she lied. You know what happened to Joseph? Everything worked out okay. Potiphar found out that she was lying and she got punished and Joseph was okay and the story ended. Isn't that nice? No, that's not what happened. What happened? Potiphar went to Joseph and said, what are you, sleazeball? You're going to go to prison. And he's like, what? I didn't do anything. You're going to prison for trying to sleep with my wife. Get out of here. Dungeon. Let me get this straight. He was put in prison for doing the right thing. Yeah, sometimes on your way to your dream, following God, things aren't going to work out how you think they should. Sometimes things might seemingly get a little worse. Sometimes life is going to hit you hard. But guess what? When Joseph went through this time, he had a response. He could either choose to become bitter or he could choose to become better. How are you going to respond when life happens? Are you going to let depression come over you? Are you going to let the insecurities come over you? Are you going to let what other people say define your reality? Or are you going to determine this day who you're going to live for? Questions in your court. And so he's in prison. But again, instead of being in prison wallowing, I'm in prison, life's the worst, he says, I'm going to bloom where I'm planted. And so he started helping out the guard. And guess what happened? The guard put him in charge of the entire prison. He was sweeping poop again. And then guard said, you're really good at that. And he said, I'll do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And so guard put him in charge of the entire prison. The Bible doesn't say how long he was there, but it said for quite some time. I don't know how long quite some time is, but it's long enough for me not to want to be in prison. And he's in there, and two other guys get thrown in prison. And while in prison, there's one morning they wake up. It's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, man, we had some dreams, and we don't know what they mean. Guess what gifts Joseph had developed at a young age? Interpreting dreams. So he goes and he hears these dreams. And there's two guys. There was a cupbearer, the guy who gave the cups to Pharaoh, and there was the baker, the guy who made Pharaoh's bread. The baker said, I had a dream, and it was about this and this. And Joseph said, well, actually, I'm going to say it in reverse order because that's how the story goes. First guy, the cupbearer, says, I had this dream about these vines and these grapes that I poured in the cup and gave it to Pharaoh. And Joseph said, in 3 days' time, Pharaoh's going to come in and he's going to restore your status and you're going to be back in Pharaoh's court. Awesome. Life's going to get better. Yeah, thanks, man. High five. Freeze frame. Then the next guy, the baker, was like, okay, cool. What's my dream mean? He told him his dream. There was ravens and they were picking at things. And Joseph said, 3 days' time, the Pharaoh's going to come to you too. Yeah, great. But you were a shady guy, so he's going to kill you and you're going to hang and you're going to die. Have a good life, man. Whatever it takes. This is what it means. So sure enough, 3 days' time, baker goes up, smoked. Cupbearer, life. But here's what Joseph said. He said, just tell Pharaoh about me. Don't forget about me. I'm not supposed to be in here. I can help him. Whatever he needs, just tell him about me. And the cupbearer was like, I got you, man. I got your back. Guess who didn't have his back? The cupbearer. He goes up to Pharaoh, forgets about Joseph, and he sat there for 2 more years. How many of you guys have been smoked by a friend before? You thought they were your friend. They were like, I will help you. I will help you, and I will get you out of the mess you're in. I will be there for you. You are mine. We are together till the end. And as soon as they get a little bit, they're like, bye, Felicia. You know what I'm talking about. And they smoke you. You're on the ground. They put you out. Get out of here. 2 years. How would you feel if for 2 years you're sitting in the jail waiting? I wonder if this guy's going to remember me. Next day you wake up. This is the day he's going to remember me. I think after like 4 months, I'd be optimistic. Then after that, I'd be like, But he could have chosen to become bitter. He could have chosen to fall into depression. He could have chosen to, and I'm not saying he didn't wrestle with those things. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he struggled with it. I'm sure it was terrible. And I'm sure the very thoughts that go through your head were going through his head about, I can't do it. I can't make it. God, why is this happening to me? Why are things so down? But he remembered that God would be faithful to him just as he was his forefathers. And after 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream. Why Pharaoh had a dream? Because God put it there. And Pharaoh had a dream and he couldn't explain it. And then guess who happens to have a memory? The cupbearer. Hey, Pharaoh, there's this guy that I forgot about the last 2 years. He can interpret dreams. And so Pharaoh came and pulled him out and said, hey, you interpret dreams. What do these dreams mean? And Joseph said, it means you're going to have 7 years of plenty, and then you're going to have 7 years of incredible famine. Prepare yourself. God had put those dreams in his heart from the time he was a child. And no matter what happened along the way, God was watching him. God was protecting him. You may see, man, seeming like being stuck in a pit, going to jail, and being forgotten about, doesn't seem like God is protecting me. But when you look at it, he really was. Because the other brothers were going to kill him, but guess who has a bright idea? Let's not kill him, let's just put him in here. Huh, okay. And then he was going to get sold. He could have been sold to anyone, but guess who he was sold to? He was sold to one of the main generals where he became the best. And even though the wife was shady, he was thrown in prison, guess what God did? He arranged, and all of a sudden dreams happened. And guess who gave Pharaoh the dream? God. And so God was at work all the time working for Joseph. And here's one of the things that we see. In Genesis 39:23, there's not a slide for that. It says, the Lord was with Joseph, and whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. When you're following after God, no matter what the world tries to throw at you, you have the ability to respond to bad news in great ways. And so Joseph became second in command over all of Egypt. Not only that, he extended Pharaoh's kingdom because people came in the 7 years of famine. They said, hey, we need help. And so he sold them food. And he grew the empire of Egypt to be one of the largest the world has ever seen. All because he followed after God. Who are you going to live for this day? Now, you might be in different stages with your dream. You might be in a phase where you're just trying to figure out, what gifts, God, have you been given me? How can I develop my gifts? You might be in a place where you need to bloom where you're planted because something crazy is going on right now and you just need to choose this day who you're going to live for. Or you might need to be in a place where you need to remember that God has not forgotten you. That no matter how crazy life may seem right now, God has not forgotten you. Where are you at in your story? I'm going to invite Sharice. Where's Sharice? Oh, she's back there. Invite her to come up. Get up for my wife. Get up for my wife. As you know, Sharice was out pursuing her dream to become an officer in the Marines until one day she hit a roadblock. I'm going to let her talk to you about what it was like going through that roadblock and the pain and the process of that.
Thank you. All right, so he didn't leave it with a lot of time, so we're going to fly through this real fast. And first, I just want to start with, it begins with a God-sized dream. And you have to understand that when you have a dream that God has given you, his favor is going to be upon you through every step of the process. And a dream is really, it's the intersection of your passion and your giftings. It's like what Scott was talking about. When you do something, it gives you energy. It gives you momentum. It doesn't drain you. And that's really what a dream is. And it's a little different from a calling. I feel like a calling, it doesn't always involve a choice. God's calling you to do something. You need to go and you need to do it. But a dream is so bold and it's so daring that God won't force you to pursue it, but he's going to challenge you to pursue it. He's going to say hey, you could do this. And then he kind of leaves the ball in your court and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. So I started with this God-given dream. And God may give you more than one of those. It doesn't have to be just only one thing. But the one in particular that I was following was this dream that I've had since I was 8 years old, and it was to serve and to lead Marines. I was supposed to take care of Marines. That was my dream, which is kind of weird for an 8-year-old to have, but I regressed. So I was faced with a few fears, and whenever you do have a dream and God's challenging you to pursue it, you're going to have to face those fears. There's no way around it. And my fears is I'm not mentally strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm definitely not physically strong enough. I couldn't do a push-up at the time, let alone dream about doing a pull-up. And the biggest fear that I had was if I ever go to pursue this, I'm going to fail. And I'm going to get halfway through, and I'm not going to make it. And that would just be the worst, And what's interesting is that God can work through you despite how you perceive yourself. And the reason that is because since he created you, He knows your potential better than anybody else. So it doesn't matter what you say about yourself or what somebody else says about you. You have to listen to his voice because his is the only one who really knows. So the second point is you got to respond to those fears. You got to ask yourself, what am I going to do? Am I going to run from them or am I going to tackle them? And I feel like God gave me some grace in this because I ran from my fears so hard that I collided with them like on the other side. Don't know how that's possible. That's what I did though. He used my insecurities to make me stronger. And what the enemy intended to bring me down, God used to lift me up. I was so afraid of failing that it made me work really hard. And that hard work paid off for me. I became smarter. I pursued a career in strength and conditioning because I needed to be stronger, and I knew that. I specialized in the care and prevention of injuries. I'm really good at rehabilitating injuries. That's a gifting. That's a calling that I have. I'm really good at serving and helping other people in a very real and tangible way. I'm good at mentoring. I'm good at listening and encouraging people. Those are some of my giftings. And leadership was not something that I was good at, but little by little, I took different opportunities to lead, and it made me stronger. And basically, I had to learn to be okay with imperfection because I was never the best at anything. I've never been the best at anything. And that's okay because what I realized is I don't have to be the best. I just have to give my best. That's all that God's asking of me. So you're like, I don't want to sing on the worship team. I'm not the best singer. Who cares? Can you sing? That's great. You should do it. Oh, I don't know if I can play guitar. I'm not the best. It doesn't matter. Are you giving your best? That's what counts. And number 3 is this is what I've learned mostly through this process. And it's a little phrase, and it goes like this. Though I am slain, yet I will trust him. Though I am slain, yet I will trust him. You know, you're going to fail. That's actually that's probably the first thing that you'll learn in the Marine Corps, is no matter how good you are, no matter how great you are at leading, you are going to fail. And if it doesn't look like you're about to fail on your own, they will find a way to make you fail. And they really don't care. They don't care if you fail. What matters is how you respond to that failure. And I could say the same thing of God. God doesn't care if you fail. He's not waiting up there to zap you. He wants to see how you'll respond to the failure. And you have to remember that seasons are temporary. So if you find yourself right now in a great season, you're pursuing something, you're living your dream, it's going awesome, that's great. Enjoy it. Make the most of it. And if it's a bad season, if you're in a hard season, especially like in school, man, I know that's tough. But keep going because it's only a season and it's going to end. It won't last forever. And one of my favorite kind of things that kept me going through the hard times was if you're going through hell, keep on going because you're going to get out the other side because God is with you and he is for you. So I was gone, pursuing my dream, living the life. It was awesome, having a great time, making friends, making memories, craziness. It was awesome. Everything was going great. I could not have asked for better situations. From the biggest events to the smallest detail, everything was going awesome. And then I got injured. And it was just like, whoa. One day, I'm 4 weeks away from graduating, and the next day, I'm waking up in San Jose going, what the heck just happened? What the heck just happened? And it was like, well, what could I do? I went from being the busiest, most physically active I've ever been in my entire life, and I've never been injured before, to having an injury, and I'm not supposed to even walk. It's like, whoa, what am I supposed to do? And it kind of resulted to the only thing that I've been doing through this whole process. From the beginning, it just started with a prayer. When God first put the dream in my heart, it started with a prayer that said, God, I don't know if I can do this. And then as we were pursuing the process and we were talking about it, the whole time we had to pray through it. Is this really what God's calling me to do? Because we had to give up a lot. You know, I had to leave my job. I had to leave Scott. I had to leave you guys. There was a lot of sacrifice there. And then while I was in it, day to day, I had to pray every day, God, just give me another day. This is awesome. Just help me through this moment. I lived from chow to chow. That's just how far in advance you had to look. Like, as much as something sucks, you're just like, it's okay. because we're going to get lunch, and it's going to be awesome. So pray. When you find yourself in those moments when you don't know what to do, pray. And then ask yourself the question, what are you after? Are you after your dream coming true, or are you after knowing God more? Because at the end of the day, your primary dream should be to know him more. And if you pursue this purpose, you will never lose, you will never fail, and your dream will always come true because no matter what, you had the opportunity to know God in a way that you never knew before. And I know that my story isn't over, and I still believe that God gave me this dream for a reason. God didn't intend for me to be injured. I wasn't supposed to get hurt. I was supposed to graduate, and I was supposed to commission yesterday. That wasn't supposed to happen. But you know what? God is watching to see what I do next. And we see Peter, he stepped out on the water, and he drowned because his eyes lost focus on Jesus because there was a storm. So in those moments, you got to choose. What am I going to do? And no matter what happens in my future, maybe I'll be a Marine one day, maybe I won't. I don't know. I still believe that God's not done with my story. But no matter what happens, no one can take away what I got to experience. And that was pursuing my God-given dream, which I thought was impossible. And even though I'm ended up in literally what I believe to be the worst case scenario, it's kind of ironic, especially given my career field, It's kind of a bite the bullet moment, But I got to pursue my dream. And really that was just having another great adventure with my God and getting to know him more. So again, I'm speaking to you to encourage you in whatever moment that you're in on that journey, keep praying, have hope, because God's there, he's fighting for you, and he's going to see it through to the end. And that's it.
Stay here. So as you're pursuing your dreams, as you're living life, choose today who you're going to live for. When things are going well, choose who you're going to live for. And when your dreams seemingly get dashed into the ground and exploded and destroyed, choose who you're going to live for. We're going to stand up here and talk, and if you've had your dreams dashed, or if you feel like you're in a place of just, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to have hope in the midst of my situation, Sharice is literally walking that right now. And she wants to help coach you through on how you can respond to bad news in great ways. You might be on the other side saying, Pastor Scott, life's fantastic, it's amazing, things are going well. How do I pursue my calling more? How do I pursue my gifts? How do I pursue? We're here to talk to you as well, because you might be in any stage amongst that process. And we want to help encourage you to keep your eyes set on Jesus. And so we're going to stand up here and talk. We'll play some kind of chill music as you guys leave, but we'll be here to talk with you as long as you want. Continue to pursue those things. Pursue what it is to develop your gifts, to bloom where you're planted, and remember that God has not forgotten you. Let's pray. Lord, may the things that we've talked about today sink in our hearts as we pursue our dreams, as we pursue you. May our eyes not gaze to the things of the world, the things that'll distract us, but may our eyes be set towards you, set towards heaven. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you over in the sanctuary on Wednesday. We're here for you as long as you guys want to talk. Have a great week.